Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Golden Astrologer Podcast. This is Deb McBride, and I am in rainy Escazú, Costa Rica, on the 15th of June, a Sunday in the year 2025. And we are here to discuss the astrology of this week. There's lots of beginnings and endings this week. There's a few, and there's some interesting astrology happening. So we begin with today, because if you listened to me last week, you heard me say that there were two profound aspects today. Now, one of them is Jupiter square Saturn, which happened at 10:36 a.m. Eastern Time this morning. And that was the final of three relationships of Jupiter and Saturn. And they were in square while Jupiter was in the sign of Gemini and Saturn was in the sign of Pisces. And while Saturn's not entirely finished with Pisces, Jupiter is finally finished with Gemini after a year or so. And they came together in a square in those signs. And those are mutable signs, which are flexible signs. These are cardinal signs, Cancer, Aries, cardinal signs. And you know, this place that we're in right now, Jupiter is in a place that's really, really good for Jupiter. Jupiter loves to be in Cancer. It loves to expand the sense of nurture and nourish and family and extended family. And Saturn is not in a happy place. Saturn's in Aries, where it's not at its best. It's better, it's exalted in Libra, so it's better there. So it's in its detriment in the sign of Aries, the opposite sign of Libra. And so I would say that Jupiter really is the stronger one here because Saturn's in a weak place. Now, that doesn't mean this is all like smooth and easy and Jupiterian. It means that we have to balance the dynamic between expansion and contraction, which I talked mostly about last week. But it's also where we want to expand and how we're expanding and what gives us the confidence versus Saturn whispering in our ear. You know, it's like good angel on one shoulder and little devil on the other. So Saturn's going to be telling you things like, sorry, you have to wait. Oh, that'll never happen. You didn't learn a lesson from this. And Jupiter's like, let's go. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. You can do this. So your confidence may be a bit eroded under this particular aspect. And your desire to carry on and get through and make something happen may feel undermined by the energies of Saturn. And so you have to keep moving. And it's a lesson and a test in moving forward and pushing forward despite the whispers of the subconscious mind and the mind going, why would you think you can do that? Well, how do you think you can do that? Well, why would you expand to that? Well, that'll never work out. And it's that discouragement, and this is why Saturn's called, a little devil, because it does this. This is what its character is like. It's not always like this, but when you're trying to do something and expand, it's gonna come in, especially when it's clashing with Jupiter, it's gonna come in and try to discourage you. And you can't go there. You have to, the lesson really is rising above that voice and moving forward. Now, this was happening a few hours after Mars was squaring Uranus. Okay, so this is the other big aspect today is Mars-Uranus. Rarely do we have these two things at the same time. And what's happened along the way here is that we've had Jupiter and Saturn twice last year, and like I said, and then now there's this. But thankfully it's the end. And what I mentioned last week is they're going to trine later this year, much later this year, and when Saturn goes back into Pisces. And so they're going to do a water trine, which is very interesting, but more on that when we get closer. This is the last chapter of the story from last year when they were squaring. And so finally we're getting rid of this, but there's probably a story that's continued over and over again since you had last year's issues, and there may have been complications in these last days that relate to those stories from last year. And I really feel like we've come a long way since the last Jupiter Saturn, and yet we may still feel like we haven't made progress. So think about where you've been and the story you've dealt with over the last 10 months or so, because they started squaring last August, mid-August, and then they came to another square between Christmas and New Year's. And so we're back again so many months later for them to have this conversation, and that's why it feels so unusually strange, because we're revisiting this. And so I think that you have to see how far you've come and the progress you've made, even if it doesn't feel like you have. Sit down with yourself and recognize it and congratulate yourself. Be Jupiterian about this. Don't let Saturn saying, okay, you got to obey the rules, you got to learn the lesson, but Saturn they're finishing. Saturn doesn't get to say this anymore, okay? And it doesn't get to rain on Jupiter's parade. And so what we're looking at is, trying to rise above all the nonsense chatter that Saturn brings with it. Okay, now back to Mars and Uranus. They're really irritating. They are irritating, and they have been irritated, and they do get irritated anytime they meet. So Mars has been in Leo since last November, and it's finally, and this is part of this week, finally at the last degrees of Leo. It is squaring Uranus, which is at the last degrees of Taurus. And so there's a lot of irritation because those two together often make an explosion. And yes, it's been complicated, especially the last few days. So I can't say that it's been calm and smooth. I can say that when I woke up this morning, I felt like, oh my God, I felt like I've been through a war. And those aspects just sort of landed this morning. And so I felt like as I was waking up, and it took a long time to wake up and get settled and get into my day, it really felt like I had been through something. And it didn't feel like, wow, I've been through something and I'm so happy to be, I met the challenges. It felt like, man, I got dragged through the mud on that one. And it was really, I woke up not feeling great. I woke up and it really took a while for me to meditate and get myself out of that. And we did a space cleanse on the whole property this morning and the gardens. And that really helped diffuse all of this, prickly stuff. Because even if you don't get into something, you have to get past this energy, and it still felt prickly this morning, and I just was like, oh God, what is this? And I'm sensitive, so if everybody else around me is having a thing, I'm gonna pick it up, and I'm going to sense that there's energy not that is not coherent, and then we have to kind of bring it back and like get normal again. Okay. But if you woke up feeling ornery, that's normal for a day like today. I mean, it's Sunday and you think, oh, great, I have a nice Sunday, make a nice breakfast. And I made a nice breakfast for myself, but it took like meditation. It took breath work, meditation to get through this and not feel like I was still getting dragged through the mud, And so clearing energy like that, clearing the property with like sage and rattle and incense and stuff, that really helped. Like taking that whole exercise and setting intention for the property was really good. And we have to stay positive despite what's going on in the world. And we can't let it drag us through the mud and let other people's stuff catch on our sweater. Don't let your sweater get caught on someone else's nail. How's that for an analogy, a metaphor? So yeah, unhook your sweater, and don't let things get, don't get into a kerfuffle. My poor kitty, poor Gata Marina, yesterday actually, Monica said to me, Camaro, had a tick, and she's like, there's ticks. I've never seen ticks on the cats before, so we have to do their medicine. And I prefer to be holistic with her, I prefer to do like homeopathic things, but we had to put medicine on all the cats, the one that goes on the back of their neck, to keep the parasitic insects off them and to keep them protected. And like I said, I prefer to do homeopathic things, and I still do homeopathic things, but we had to take some extra precautions, and Monica came in and gave her the medicine, and they don't like that. I don't know if you have a cat or if you have dogs, those listening, but there are times when we have to do these things that they don't like, obviously. So they don't understand. And she got her medicine, and she was okay. I gave her treats right afterwards. She was fine, sitting in her bed, all cozy, and then it hits her. She realizes, wow, what did you just do to me? She came running upstairs, the poor baby. So now she was hiding from everybody. She's blinking a whole lot, because that must be irritating. I feel like it's an act of betrayal, but she'll be fine. She's fine. They're fine after a day. The other cats didn't like it either, and one Camaro was complaining, and the two tuxedos didn't like it either. So the dogs seem to be fine, but there you go. Sometimes we have to take our medicine, and so that was the Saturnine portion of my day. That was the Saturnine portion of our day, and so that was a little tough. But onward, we have Mars leaving Leo finally this week. Okay, so it's moving into Virgo on Tuesday the 17th at 4:35 a.m. Eastern Time. And so this is something that is a big shift, because like I said, Mars has been in Leo since like the end of November. So remember, it turned around retrograde at 6 degrees Leo on December 6th. And then it's just been some intense time. And Mars likes Leo. It's fire. It gives us that oomph and that we need. But when it goes into Virgo, it can play nice in Virgo. It's get your house in order, clean your house, take care of your health. So you're already taking care of your health things. Take care of your health. Have your smoothie. Get your vitamins in order. Order from the vitamin stores online. Get your vitamins, and do healthy things for yourself. And also, or get organized. Clear out drawers, clear out closets. Mars is really good about doing that, and it helps get rid of the clutter. So when we start clearing our clutter, Mars can really give us a good boost of energy to do a big cleanse. You could do your space cleanse with Virgo, and you can also do a body cleanse. Some people like to do cleanses, colon, liver, gallbladder, all those good cleanses, digestive systems, parasite cleanses. See, got the money and got her medicine to avoid the parasites. But this is starting Tuesday, and Mars will stay there for about not quite 2 months. It'll be about the 6th of August that it leaves and goes into Libra, a sign it's not fond of. So we will address that at that point. Mars and Libra, meh. Mars and Virgo, okay. We can really take this opportunity to do some cleanup. And since we had a bit of a mess of months of retrograde, and then alongside Venus retrograde, alongside Mercury retrograde, and everybody in their shadow, and so much conflict and confusion, this is a great clean slate. Okay, so this is good. I like this. And Mars going into Virgo is going to be positive, I feel. So that's another thing going on that we're starting this week. We're ending, remember I said there were endings and new beginnings. We're ending the time in Leo after many months. And, it was time in Cancer, right? But it was back and forth between Leo, Cancer, back in Leo. So this has been a challenge. Now we're going forward. Now it's clean. Now this is good. So the other thing that's going to start this week is that the sun is going to go into Cancer. It's leaving Gemini. It's finishing up its annual visit to Gemini, the sun. And the sun is now going to spend maybe less than a week in the sign of Gemini and then go into the sign of Cancer at 10:42 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday the 20th. This is the summer solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, the winter solstice in the Southern Hemisphere. And this is always another time when we start cardinal energy. Now, if you remember, last week Jupiter went into Cancer a couple weeks ago. And we also had Saturn in Aries, and Neptune has been in Aries, and so these are all cardinal signs, and things are early in the cardinal sign. So this Jupiter squaring Saturn today, now we're going to move into something else. Jupiter and Saturn are going to move away from each other, but what's going to happen is that the sun is now going to get entangled in this Saturn, Neptune, Jupiter in Cancer. And so the sun is going to meet with Jupiter, not this week, but the following week. And we like that. We like when the sun and Jupiter, that's amazing. But before the sun reaches Jupiter, it's going to square Saturn. And that's going to be on Sunday the 22nd, next podcast day. Okay, so the sun is going to square Saturn, and then the next day it's going to square Neptune. So the sun is acting in this same way. It's getting into that cardinal energy and getting into a big square with these planets. The sun is going to conjunct Jupiter on Tuesday the 24th. We're not there yet, but the sun and the moon are going to conjunct in a new moon on Wednesday the 25th with Jupiter, and that is a beautiful thing. So this is extremely powerful. So this is the last week of Gemini. As we move into the sun entering Cancer, the sun is going, the sun is our life force, our vitality, our energy. It is the very force that keeps us going. And so when it starts getting entangled with Saturn next Sunday, we are going to need to keep our head above the water, sun in Cancer, and keep moving, because then the next day it's Neptune. So Saturn and Neptune are very close to each other. And then Jupiter later. So it's going to get together with Jupiter after all of this business with Saturn and then Neptune. We want to see the sun emerge from all of that and not feel attacked by Saturn and Neptune. We want to see the sun come through and connect with Jupiter in a powerful way. Okay? So this is what we expect, we're expecting as we move through this. Now, I'm telling you this about this new moon a week and a half before it happens, because I want you to prepare and set some intention for that day, because this is really a very deep connection, and it is the year of the Jupiter and Cancer exaltation. We only get this once every 12 years. So start now. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to call in? And Jupiter is so wonderful in Cancer, and the new moon is with Jupiter. The new moon could have happened not with Jupiter. It could have been in a different part of Cancer, past Jupiter, but it's happening with it. So this is significant. This is telling us, hey, everybody, make a big wish, go do something, take some action. Cardinal signs want to initiate. So I have something planned for that day, and I recommend that you get something planned for that day too. And don't let Saturn drag your head. Let Saturn teach you something and keep you grounded, but don't let it overdo it. I used to read old astrology books many years ago and saying, it's just Saturn overdoing itself. And yeah, yeah, but it's us letting that energy bring us down. Saturn can be extremely practical and useful, and we can get things done. But it's so important for us to rise above that and not let ourselves get dragged into something that's just taking our energy down. It's not helpful. It's not productive. Saturn likes to be productive. When it does that, when we let it do that, it's not productive. It's counterproductive. So we got to get through all this Saturn. Now, this is definitely not finished with when we have the sun, because eventually Venus is going to go into Cancer. She's in Taurus now, but she's eventually going to go into Cancer. And she will do this same routine. She'll conjunct Jupiter, she'll square Saturn, she'll square Neptune, and by that time she'll probably be conjuncting Jupiter way after she squares the Saturn and Neptune. They move more slowly. She'll come in, she'll square them, and then we'll get that nice dose of Jupiter when she makes the conjunction to Jupiter later in these months. But we have to understand this Saturn Neptune because it's going to be with us for a while, and it has been with us for a while already, and we have to really allow this to be shown to us. So instead of like getting dragged through the mud of Saturn and then trying to find the enlightenment afterwards, we've got to kind of keep ahead of it a little bit. So that's why it's good to listen to the Golden Astrologer Podcast, because you're finding out that we're going to get next weekend, Sunday, Sun square Saturn, and then Monday, Sun square Neptune. So what do they indicate? They are very different energies. Saturn is asking us to take responsibility. Neptune is asking us to dream. So if we can ground our dreams responsibly, that could be really powerful and positive. And you know, what's an interesting thing is that a couple of times in my experience of mentorship, one of them was the other day, and one of them was maybe last year and a half ago or something. The subject of daydreaming came up. And, you know, Neptune says daydream, visualize, connect with your vision. Saturn says stop daydreaming. You're daydreaming. You're not focused. And how many times in our lives, especially as kids, were we told to stop daydreaming? And you're daydreaming, and the teacher will tell your parents, he's daydreaming. They're daydreaming. And your experience of daydreaming is actually, you know, a visualization of something oftentimes that you want to have happen. And we've been like gotten that beaten out of us. Don't daydream. You're not focused. And this is tragic because I think daydreaming has gotten a bad rap. And what this challenge with Saturn Neptune is to visualize something we want to bring into being. Energetics happen before matter. It has to happen in the field before it can become 3D. So in any elements, you know, even before strategy, there's energetics and then strategies. Whatever strategies you're using for business, etc., there's energetics behind it, okay? So there's always energetics behind something. There's frequency and energetics behind your words. Choose your words wisely. So my feeling is with Saturn and Neptune, for us individually, there's definitely a collective thing going on. Boy, is there collective stuff going on. But there is the experience of bringing something into our reality, Saturn, by creating it in the field. And we do that by daydreaming, by visualizing. We want to create something in a visual sense first and make it our reality. It's so important to stretch our minds this way and this is how we open our hearts. What I think is sad is that we've been told not to do this, and we were really, criticized for doing this. And this is what great geniuses do. They sit and they don't just automatically, analytically create something. That doesn't work. You don't create something big and grand and something in service to the world without a dream, without a vision. And so the wisest use of this, and certainly in Aries, is pioneering. So what pioneering vision can you create that's going to be something you want to bring into reality? And that's a really good, wise use of this energy individually. Collectively, we've got a whole lot going on that's very, very deep and profound and not so nice right now. And there's a lot that we can visualize and send good energy to hopefully bring into reality. Send love, send peace, send white light, and that's very Neptunian. And prayer really does work, whatever that means to you. And so the vision for our world is one thing. The vision for ourselves, we can act locally. The more we allow ourselves to visualize something wonderful that stirs our happiness and joy and brings good things to us, and we manifest good things from that because we're manifesting all the time. This whole experience of allowing yourself to dream, because if you feel that energy around that dream, that's what's going to start bringing it. You're going to magnetize it. What happens in these circumstances is we're so used to like a bad story that we play the bad story over and over again in our heads. And when we have that bad story playing, the body doesn't know that it's not happening right now. It might have happened 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 25 years ago. And if you're playing that story in your head, your body thinks it's happening right now because you're kicking up the emotions of when that happened. So we want to stop doing that. We really want to get a hold of our thoughts and create something beautiful from our thoughts. And if you have a little trouble doing that, go back to times that you created joy in your life, or someone did something lovely and beautiful and nice for you, and keep thinking of those happy thoughts and keep bringing that energy in. And that's going to help clear up and make space for more good things to come. Try to catch yourself and be conscious of when you are allowing yourself to slip into thoughts of arguing with people and stuff like that. Because if you're, the thing that happens is if you start thinking about old stories that happened 25 years ago and that you still get angry about, like I said, the body still thinks it's happening now, but you aren't finished with that story on some level, and you kind of calling it back in. It's really hard, right? It's really hard to acknowledge this. It's really hard to not let it happen. But when you are bringing those in, you're doing the wrong kind of daydreaming. You want to daydream about something that's really positive that you want to have happen. You don't want to daydream about things that got you aggravated, because then you haven't processed your emotions. You know what happens? You are really out of your body in that moment. You're going back to that situation to try to resolve it. And then something happens. There's a noise. Someone calls you. There's a text message. Something happens and it like snaps you back into now. But you've gone back, or you are going out of your body to try to resolve that. That's when you want to clear those emotions, clear those feelings, write about them, journal about them, do things like tapping, more visualization to get rid of that. Like breath work helps with that stuff too, to get out of those old stories. We want to daydream something beautiful into existence, and we want to stop getting triggered by the emotions of the past. And Saturn and Neptune's a real test. Think of Saturn as a test as opposed to pulling us down into that. Think of it as a test and say, that's a boundary. I'm not going there. And I'm going to stay focused on the beauty, Neptune. So this is a very helpful, practical way to use this energy, okay? It takes practice. Anything that we want to get good at takes practice. If you want to get good at the piano, you have to practice. If anything else. So it's an exercise. It's a muscle. It's, okay, I want to get really good at tennis. That's going to be practice also. It's muscles that we have to work. So we can practice this visualization. That is our challenge during this Saturn and Neptune phase, okay? It's not going to be forever, but if you can change, your vision to something really optimistic, positive, and bring that into your life, and feel it, that's another key, feeling it, hello Jupiter in Cancer, then you are going to master the art of manifestation, okay? Feeling it, that's going to help it come in. In the meantime, Jupiter is going to square Neptune on Wednesday the 18th. And that is, again, Jupiter squared Saturn today. Obviously, we talked about that. But now it's going to get to that other planet, that Neptune. And that's a great time to expand and visualize. So let's put Saturn, Jupiter behind us, which it's been these last hours. We're done. Now we're moving towards Jupiter, Neptune, and that's going to be fun. So what can you create this week that's a big vision for yourself, a grand vision for your life, that you know that when you do that and create it, that, man, if I can do that, I can do anything, right? This is a positive use of this energy. And it's a challenge for all of us this week. Okay? So use the energy wisely. Take it to the next level. What can you bring to the next level? What can you visualize about your life that takes it to the next level? That's what you want to do. And so if you need some support with that, you can always get in touch with me. And that would be at thegoldenastrologer.com. And you can book a session on my website. You just go to thegoldenastrologer.com, click book online, and you can book an astrology session. Or perhaps you'd like a Reiki session, or perhaps you'd like emotional clearing. I can do that with both my Reiki, because Reiki's very powerful. It's not your typical Reiki, oh, that feels nice. This is where we clear old beliefs, clear old contracts, break vows. We can do all sorts of emotional clearing with that, but also with my new vision system, I can do emotional clearing. I'm also available for expansion mentoring, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and that's a longer journey with me where we meet and really do some deep work on advancing your life. This is a great time with Jupiter in Cancer, to advance your life. Jupiter squaring Neptune, opening the door to a new life. So if you're interested, you can email me, deb@debmcbride.com, or info@thegoldenastrologer.com, and we can work on that. I'm also available on Instagram at The Golden Astrologer, and you can see videos and all sorts of stuff that I've posted from the past, little messages and things, on my Instagram page. I'm also on Facebook, but it's all generated from Instagram. So anything on Facebook, I'm on there twice, The Golden Astrologer and Deb McBride, but that is all really generated from Instagram because I post there first. In the meantime, have a beautiful week. Dream big. Reach out to me if you need to, and I will see you on the internet in this solstice week. Have a beautiful week.